Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Office Hours with Michael Kitces. So I wanted to take a little time today to talk about referrals and kind of the process of referrals. What's a good process? Kind of how do you know you're doing well? So I got a question that had come in. I'm reading the question here. So Ari asks, so I get a lot of referrals, but I find it hard to convert them to clients. So I'm working on improving the process. But I wanted to know, what's the average referral conversion rate? That was Ari's question. Like sort of that proverbial question. Like how do you know what good is? Like what should you be shooting for in trying to figure out whether your client referral process works? I'm curious, any of you that are listening here, if you're on Periscope, you can type it in. Even share, like if you know your own numbers. What of the people that you meet with who get referred to you, how often do they typically become clients? Is it like 20%? Is it 50%? Is it 80%? Is it 100%? We can all learn from you. I find it's so there's an interesting caveat in even trying to assess what client referral rate should be and what a good referral rate is. And the first driver to it is recognizing the concept of what I'll call a qualified lead. And the idea of a qualified lead is when we look at referrals, lots of people may get referred to us. Sometimes they're not actually a good fit. Sometimes they just literally can't do business with us. So like the infamous example would be, you've got $1 million minimum and 3 clients get referred to you who all have $300,000. So they don't meet your minimums. They can't work with you. Do I count this against my close rate or not? Right? Like if 3 of them come in and then a 4th person comes in who is qualified and I close the 4th person, does that mean I closed 100% because that was all my qualified leads, or does that mean I closed 25% because that was kind of the total volume? And so like that's actually the first distinction. And already some of you are sharing great numbers. So I think Mary Beth said over 50% close. I think Diane said over 80%. Someone else had said under 20%. So the first thing I'd encourage, just to make sure we're all on the same page about what we're talking about, is if you're when you look at your close ratio, calculate it based on how many people were qualified to do business with you in the first place. So they could afford whatever your minimums or fees or price structure is. Now they might say no because they just decide they don't want to pay the cost, but like, could they at least have afforded it? Because were they been capable of paying it? Or if you have a niche, like, do they actually fit your niche, or were they so far off track that they wouldn't have been relevant in the first place? And it's an important distinction to make, because if your primary problem is, I got a terrible close rate because all the people I'm talking to aren't qualified leads, then it's a very different problem than if you're talking to people who are qualified clients and they meet all your criteria and like they'd be a great fit, they just don't choose to do business with you. They don't close. They don't turn into a client. So let's kind of talk a little bit the numbers. So if we boil it down to qualified leads, what should your conversion rate for qualified leads be? So I don't think there's any good industry data on this, in part because so few of us even do a good job of delineating qualified and non-qualified. But I'll kind of throw some numbers out there. I think if you're converting fewer than a third of your qualified leads, you've got an actual conversion problem. You should be over half of the people who are a good qualified fit to your services that are actually deciding to do business with you. And as 1 or 2 people noted here, a lot of advisors I know that have a really clear business and differentiator, their conversion rate is over 80%. Now, they may or may not see a ton of people, but they're converting 80% of who they talk to. And that's kind of the point. That means you've clearly identified who you're working with. So we can make this distinction. If you're not happy with how many clients you're getting off of referrals, is it because there's just not enough people coming through the pipeline? Is it because the people who are coming through the pipeline are not qualified to work with you? Or is it because you're actually getting qualified leads and they're just not closing? So Ari at least implied that her problem is that they're just not closing. And so if that's truly your challenge, then I think you really need to look at, your actual sales process. And I know for a lot of us, sales is a dirty word because we're trying to get people to pay us for our advice. But recognize, like, even if you're the best advisor or fiduciary out there, if you're getting clients, it's a sale. You're in the sales business. Now you're selling your advice and yourself and your service. You're not selling someone's third-party product that you're going to get a commission for or something. But you're still selling. And you need to treat it like a real sales process. So do you have marketing materials that clearly explain what you do? That stuff matters. You're making an impression on someone. You're trying to convey why you're worth the price. So you got to actually show them. What are you going to do? I know a few of you adopted the client service calendar that I've written about on the site in the past as just a way to show and convey to people what you're actually going to do for them over the year that will justify their price. This is where things like credentials matter. Do you actually have CFP marks, other social proof? Have you been published, featured in media publications? Has your firm been written about? Not that necessarily gets the client, not necessarily, I should say, brings the client in. But that kind of social proof is very powerful when someone's trying to figure out how to do business with you. Because the fundamental challenge we all have as advisors, like we're selling an intangible service. It's not like a product, a widget. You can go and pick it up at the store, play with it, fiddle with it, buy it, take it home. If you don't like it, bring it back in 30 days for guaranteed refunds. Like, intangible services don't work that way. And a book I'll highly recommend on this is Selling the Invisible by Harry Beckwith, which I think gives a great framing around just the challenges that people have in buying an intangible service and why a lot of the other little things, even down to like, how do you look? How are you dressed? What's the quality of your marketing materials? What impression are you leaving on clients? The reality is when they can't try you out first, because we're selling an intangible service, not a physical product you can pick up and try, clients will take some cues off of some very surprising things that may not even be that related to your service because they're trying to figure out how to evaluate you when you're basically an unknown. So if you're really getting in front of qualified leads and your conversion rate is under a half or especially under a third, I think you need to take a hard look at your actual sales process. What are you doing? Do you actually just ask them for the business at the end? Like, it's an incredibly simple thing, but I'm astonished still how many advisors I see out there. They'll meet with prospects that refer to them. They'll have a great meeting. And then kind of at the end, it's like, yeah, so it was cool to meet with you. And there's an awkward pause. And then the client says, yeah. And then everybody leaves. And they say, oh, that was a bummer. The client never did business. And the problem is you didn't ask them. I see some of you saying now, guilty. You have to ask for the business. At some point, you can do it in a nice way, but you have to ask the business, wow, I'm really enjoying this meeting. I feel like we have a good fit here. I think my services are a great match to your needs. So I'd love to work with you, or would you like to move forward? Now, it's scary for us, right? You're going to ask this question and you're going to create some social tension and they might say no, and no one really likes getting rejected. But if you never ask them, I guarantee you they're not just going to vault out of your chair and say, my God, that was the most amazing financial planning pitch I've ever seen. You don't even have to ask me for the business. Here's my life savings. Please take it. That does not happen. At some point, you have to ask for the business, because the reality, that kind of moment of social tension is what it takes to nudge someone over the line. Even someone who's well-intentioned and likes you and wants to work with you. This isn't about making them awkward or uncomfortable or being mean about it. You have to ask the question, or they're not going to do business with you. So if you're struggling with a low conversion rate on true qualified prospects, look at your sales process and whether you're even asking for the business in the first place. Now, from there, maybe you're asking for the business and it's still not working. And then the next challenge that I find for a lot of advisors out there, we're asking for the business. We got a decent sales process. The problem is it's as decent as everyone else on this Periscope listening in, because we're all basically saying the same thing right now, right? You can raise your virtual hands. How many of you differentiate yourselves with your clients and on your website by saying you provide customized, individualized financial planning solutions made just specifically for each of your clients' individual needs, and you do that based on your CFP marks and your other credentials and your years of experience? I'm going to bet I basically just described the differentiator that 90% of us have on our website. And of course, when 90% of us have it on our website, it's not differentiated. kind of by definition. It's necessary. I'd actually call it like the table stakes. You know, it's the ante you got to bring to the table just to play the game. You have to do things in your client's interests that are specific to their needs, and you have to have the education, credentials, and experience in order to do that. So that stuff has to be there. That's not a differentiator. That's the ante to play the game. Your differentiator has to go something beyond that. And of course, for many of you who listen to me regularly, you know, like this is why I pound the table so hard about the importance of niches, about the importance of specialization, because that's what ultimately drives conversions. And we can even see in the comments where some people are participating at the beginning, you know, those of you who have really high close rates, you have a clear specialization, you have a clear niche, you know exactly who your target clientele are. That's ultimately what people connect with, as well as what Mary Beth's pointing out. You have to show who you are too. You know, recognize like clients want to work with you, not just like an automaton on a website. Not even intended as a dig at robo-advisors, but just, you know, recognize they want to work with you. So if they go to your website, not only should they see your specialization, who you're best at serving, what you do, they also just need to see you. Who are you, right? I'm always amazed at how many of us say, we're in the people business, we're in the relationship business. If I go to your website, I can't even find a picture of you and I don't know what human being you are. Right? Like recognize that disjoint. If we're in the people business and people connect with people, how are you featuring yourself on your website and your team and all the people that are around you? If you want people to connect with people, you gotta be there. The person's gotta be there. But for a lot of us, I find it's the differentiation that's now becoming the challenge. You're meeting with qualified prospects. They're not closing, right? They're meeting with you and 4 other people. You're 1 in 5. You're winning 20% of the business, which means you're basically winning the coin flip random 1 in 5, which kind of makes the point, right? Prospect interviews 5 people, has no idea who to choose, flips a coin. You're going to win 20% of the time. There's your 20% close rate. If you want to get higher, you have to go more focused. You have to go more specialized. Now, I find for a lot of us, we're terrified to do that because we think that going more specific somehow gives up opportunity. And the reality is it doesn't. Or at least it gives up opportunity you weren't going to get anyways. And like the analogy I like to tell, so imagine like I'm holding a fishing net here. Fishing net's right here. So I can only catch all the fish that hit the net here. Now, if I'm not happy with this and I want to catch more fish, what can I do? I can grab the net, stretch it bigger. Now I'm going to have more fish that hit my net. You know what the problem is when I stretch the net out this way? The holes get so big, everything swims through. That's the problem that most of us are stuck in right now. We're not getting as many referrals as we want, so we take the net and we stretch it wider, and we meet with more prospects, but none of them close, and our close rates go down. So we stretch the net wider, we meet with more people, none of them do business, the close rates go down. If you're trying to figure out why your referrals are not doing business with you, ask yourself, is it because you stretch the net so wide trying to work with everybody that every prospect just swims through the giant hole you created in the net? How do you actually catch fish in that net? Bunch it up close together so the holes are really small and nothing swims through. You won't get everything, but you'll get everything that hits your net. That's the point of having a niche and a specialization, that kind of focus. Because what we do find from the limited research that's out there, like clients do want to refer us. It just doesn't turn to business because frankly, we're so poorly differentiated. So Julie Littlechild did a great study a couple of years ago looking at this, went out and surveyed actual clients and said, ask clients, are you referring your advisor? And what they found across all the base, 25% of all advisors' clients were saying, we refer our advisor. Now, maybe this is true for some of you, and I'm going to bet for most of us, we don't feel like 25% of our clients are sending us an active referral every year. Julie's research was, have you referred your advisor in the past 12 months? Do all of you feel like your client, like a quarter of your clients are giving you a new client referral a quarter of them every year, year after year? Most advisors I know, it's way lower than that. They've just got like a small handful of clients that drive most of their referrals. Now, the problem with this is there's a gap. Clients say they're referring, the people they referred don't follow through. And this, I think, is actually the biggest gap for most advisors on referrals, and we don't even realize it because we don't see it, right? If 20 of your clients sent you a referral and none of the referrals called you, would you know that you had a 0% close rate on those 20 people? You wouldn't even know because they never hit your radar screen in the first place. That's actually the biggest referral gap. And it was worse than that when Julie did a follow-up and said, how many clients would be willing to refer their advisor? The typical advisor, 80% of their clients said they would refer. I think this rings true for most of us. It rings true for me. Like, most of our clients are pretty happy with us. I think they would refer, but they don't. And why don't they refer? Because they don't know who to refer. Because we haven't been clear about our niches. We haven't been clear about our specialization. We say things like, I work with anybody who has at least $1 million. You know what happens when you've got $1 million minimum? Your client referrals go to zero because your clients are afraid to refer you. You know why they're afraid to refer you? Because they don't want the social embarrassment of referring a friend to you and then finding out that friend doesn't have $1 million and having you turn them down. Right? I mean, just think about that social awkwardness, embarrassment. If someone asks you for a referral, you referred a close friend to a professional, and then the professional said, oh, I'm sorry, I can't work with you. You don't have enough money. I only work with your friend because he's got more money than you. How awkward, how painful is that? That's the situation we put our clients in. Not to say you shouldn't have minimums, you may need them for your business, but that's what happens when the only way you define your clients are, do they have enough money to work with me? Right? If I'm specialized in divorcees, this gets a lot easier. Oh, you're going through a divorce? Talk to my friend Michael. That's a clear situation your clients know how to refer. Oh, you drive a nice car, you might have $1 million. You should call my advisor. Doesn't work so well. This is why having a clear target client matters so much. And it fits the way our brains think. Right? When I think of who studies client engagement, when this question came to me about advisor referrals, one name instantly came to mind. It's Julie Littlechild. She does research in this space. When someone asks me about advisor technology, Bill Winterberg, Joel Bruckenstein, these are the established experts. If I asked you who's a guru on all things IRAs, most of you are thinking Ed Slott right now. Ed Slott's the IRA guy. And that's the point. Like, our brains like to make these connections. I mentioned advisor technology, you're thinking Bill Winterberg, Joel Bruckenstein. I mention IRA guru, you're thinking Ed Slott. So what expertise, what specialization can someone mention where your name is the one that instantly comes to mind? How do you make that connection? Steve Wershing calls it owning a spot on your client's brain, where there's this one term, this one thing, this one trigger that's related to you and your business, where if you mention that, if it gets said, your clients instantly think of you and refer to you. And of course, what happens with those referrals? Those are the ones that have the 50%, 75%, 80% close rates, because now they're clear referrals that are a clear match for your clear and specific differentiated expertise. They're not going to do business with anyone else because you're the only one that does this. And you aren't going to close 100% of them because sometimes just mismatches will happen. But you should see close rates that are 50, 60, 70, 80% as a couple people participating on the Periscope here had talked about. So if you want a little more food for thought for this, I would encourage checking out Steve Wershing's book. He aptly titles it, Stop Asking for Referrals. I love the title because it just makes that point that what really drives referral activity is not just asking people more and more and getting a higher flow of leads, many of which will probably be non-qualified anyways, because the clients just gave you a name because it was so awkward and they wanted you to stop bugging them about a referral. And they don't know who to refer because they can't figure out who your target client is, and they don't want to refer random people that aren't qualified. So get away from that trap. Find what your expertise is, what your specialization is, craft it, move yourself in that direction, and let the referrals come to you, and you'll find the close rates begin to rise at that point because you're so well differentiated, and of course you can still refine the sales process and get better from there. So I hope that helps a little as just some food for thought around referrals, the ideas of referrals, some of the challenge of referrals that you can work on and try to get over. So hope this is helpful food for thought. Thanks for hanging out with us. Office Hours with Michael Kitces every 1 p.m. East Coast time on Tuesdays. And have a great day. Take care, everyone.